Much more coming up on this preview show, including a head coach Tony Grenek interview coming up right after this.
Call Ephesus Pizza today for our Point Park special. An extra large plain pizza plus a 32-ounce Coke, breadsticks, and a packet of ranch. Only $12.99 plus tax. That's right, an extra large cheese pizza, 32-ounce Coke, breadsticks, and ranch dressing. Only $12.99 plus tax. Or you can ask for other college specials. Visit Ephesus Pizza online at ephesuspizza.com or come into our new downtown location at 219 4th Avenue next to PPG. Call 412-552-9020. Ephesus Pizza.
Hello and welcome back to the NAIA Tournament Preview Show. We are joined by Point Park Women's Basketball head coach Tony Grenek. Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing very good. How are you, Zach?
Doing well, thank you. It's a very exciting time of the year as we prepare for the NAIA opening round to be played on Thursday against Morningside. Coach, what was your take when you saw that Morningside was the opponent that you were going to face?
Well, my feelings are everybody in the national tournament's a good team. I was a little shocked that we got a 7 seed after having a 29-win season. And some teams in front of us had lost during their conference tournaments. We're coming off a 6-game winning streak in the KIAC title game as well. And for us to drop a spot, I thought that was a little bit unfair. And by the same token, if you look at Morningside's probably saying, why do we have to play a 29-win team in the first round game? So it works both ways, and can't really control the polls. We just can control the way your team plays. So hopefully we'll come out and make a good showing.
Morningside's known for the defensive havoc that they cause, both a little bit before half court and after half court. Just what do you see recognizing that and knowing the problems that may cause at some points in the game?
Well, teams like Morningside, even Northwestern, these wonderful programs from the Midwest, you have to make sure that you know how to play basketball. You're not going to be able to come down and just run a basic man-to-man set or just a basic play or a basic motion because they trap you at different angles. They trap you full court. They trap you in a half court. They'll play some zone. Straight up, it looks like a 2-3, and then it falls back to a 3-2 below the foul line, or vice versa. So they give you different looks. So your basketball team needs to know how to play the game of basketball in order to succeed. Finding the open players, looking to reverse the basketball very quickly and to avoid certain traps. And, so we're going to have to be on top of our game to play against a very, very excellent team.
Morningside, looking at their guard play, they have a couple of guards that are at and a little bit under 100 assists, which makes it very difficult to predict where the ball's going, one of them being a 1,000-point scorer. Just what do you look at in terms of trying to stop them on the offensive side?
Well, it's going to be very difficult. I'm not sure of their names, but I know their numbers from watching game tape. Number 15, I know, is their senior and leading scorer. She's excellent. She can hit the 3 ball, and it doesn't take her much time to get it off. I mean, it's a catch and a shoot, so we're going to have to know where she's at all times. And not only that, she can penetrate and finish as well. Number 2 is an excellent point guard, very under controlled, excellent passer. Doesn't really force the issue if she doesn't have to, and if you leave her alone, she can stick the 3 in your face. But she kind of controls the team, and it's kind of like the quarterback. And their post player, I believe that's number 34 and a senior as well. Very strong underneath, and they have some great role players as well. I mean, there's a reason they're the 5th-ranked team in the country, and it's going to be quite a challenge for us. Especially with a head coach that's, I think it's won 3 national titles himself and has over 400 wins. Just a perennial power in the NAIA playoffs every year.
Coach, we'll get you out on this one. This is your 3rd straight appearance in the national tournament. Losses against Corbin and Indiana Wesleyan. What would it mean for the 3rd time here to be the charm?
It would be great. Not only, I think, are we playing for ourselves to let people know that we belong out here. We're trying to represent our conference as well. And so hopefully, we can go out and do a good make a good showing for ourselves and compete and to prove to people that we can play with teams at this level. And whatever happens, happens. No matter what, I'm proud of my team, but we definitely want to go out there and try to bring some victories home for Point Park University.
The game is set to start at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, Thursday. We are joined again. Tony Grenek, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Call Ephesus Pizza today for our Point Park special. An extra large plain pizza plus a 32-ounce Coke, breadsticks, and a packet of ranch. Only $12.99 plus tax. That's right, an extra large cheese pizza, 32-ounce Coke, breadsticks, and ranch dressing. Only $12.99 plus tax. Or you can ask for other college specials. Visit Ephesus Pizza online at ephesuspizza.com or come into our new downtown location at 219 4th Avenue next to PPG. Call 412-552-9020. Ephesus Pizza.
And welcome back to the NAIA D2 Women's Basketball Tournament Selection Show. I am now joined by the Director of UView, Chris Hoffman. Chris, welcome.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being here because it's been a pleasure seeing this team really develop the last 3 years as well. I mean, Coach Grenek has come in, and this is a team that before him never really had too much success, and now they've really got the ball moving and they've made themselves almost a perennial team that's in the NAIA National Tournament, as well as one of the best teams as we've seen the last 2 years in KI and AC action.
Absolutely. It's very tough to make that adjustment sometimes from conferences, but in our time, the switch from the AMC to the KIAC has been a really good, fruitful addition for Point Park. You see that, frankly, they've represented the KIAC each of the last 2 seasons, and that really speaks volumes for itself. Tony Grenek comes in, and he really has a team following his lead, mainly a defensive-first team, but now they've added some offense with the change in officiating rules. And you really see this season, when their back was to the wall, they really pulled off 6 straight wins to get to this national tournament, Chris.
Most definitely, Zach, and you mentioned that it's his 3rd year, so the players really now are players that he's developed into his scheme. His first year, he did a lot of inheriting from Stan Kasanovic, the coach before him. He inherited April Austin, Veselany, Beatty, but he now has his own players. He brought in Savitsky, he got in Janine McFarland last year. She wasn't able to play this year due to injury, but he got in players like Forrest and Weir that really stepped up and filled that void. And the players, they listen to what he says. They go with that defense-first mentality. Yes, they allow a little bit more points due to the changing rules, as you've stated, but the offense is really there. We didn't really see the offense his first year, and we saw a little bit more his second year, but this year, they're really taking it to teams. They can average almost 80 points a game, as we've seen at times, and when their backs were against the wall, as you said there, Zach, they're a team that really came through in the end. They had a couple rough stretches of games, but they realized, hey, you know what? If we're going to make it to this NAIA National Tournament, we need to win some games, and we need to basically win our conference because they're not going to get any love in the polls. They realized that. And they came in, took care of business, and got to where they need to be.
Absolutely. Tony Grenek, one of his favorite sayings is it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And a lot of times for those of you that have run marathons or have run organized races, you understand that in that middle block, you hit that rough patch. And Point Park really did. And frankly, you can't blame them because unlike all of the other KIAC teams with the exception of Carlo, here you are taking a 7-hour bus ride almost every single week in conference play. And that really does affect the team regardless of what they say. Again, though, it comes down to the games. And when the bottom comes down to it, frankly, Point Park cannot use that as an excuse, and there were a couple of tough losses. The Asbury loss at Asbury immediately sticks to my mind. An 81-65 setback where the team fell down 7-0 early in the game and then fell flat 81-65 in the second half. And frankly, that was a game where Coach Grenek instills to them, you don't want to go on those offensive lulls, you don't want to go on those offensive lulls. And that was a game where, unfortunately for the Pioneers, the offensive lulls were very present in both halves, and that's tough to overcome. But really, after that, starting with the second half of the at Carlo game, the final week of the regular season, they really found that second wind. And as I mentioned with the marathon, not a sprint, that's where you really adhere to that saying. And frankly, since then, Point Park, all they've really done is really kept a steady head. Yes, Berea first half was a little tough. Yes, the Asbury first half in the championship game was tough, but Point Park overcame it all, and all the obstacles they've had to face, and now here they are about to face off at Sioux City, Iowa once again.
And overcoming adversity is probably the biggest thing for any team. Last year, I mean, they kind of, let's be honest, they kind of cruised right through that conference last year. They really didn't see too much of any action against them outside of IU Southeast. This year they had some teams, they had some adversity, and I think that can really pay off for them because last year, once again, they really didn't have that adversity. They made it right to Sioux City, Iowa, but then they took on the best team who ended up winning the tournament in Indiana Wesleyan. So this year, you know what? They know adversity. They know they're not going to get respect from the polls, as we've already stated, with them taking on Morningside. They've lost their last 2 games in the national tournament. They're only 2 games. So this year, if they could win, it'd be big for multiple reasons. One, that'd be a major upset of Morningside, them basically being the host home team. And it would also get Point Park to that next level. They've finally gotten themselves to the level where they're at a national tournament almost every year. And now they can take that next step finally, because that's like the big hump in the road. It's like you just need to get over that, and then you can start moving. Once you win that first one, it gets all the nerves out of the system. And the Pioneers really could do it. I mean, it would be a major upset, but they got the players that have been here for 3 years that have seen what it's like to get to that national tournament. And they've built a strong foundation where they can make it back next year and the year after. With Coach Tony Grenek here, the system they have, they've really taken strides, Zach. And that next big stride would be winning a game at the national tournament.
The big adversity that I think that you hit on, Chris, is a lot of times when you go into a new conference, other teams don't know what to expect. This being year number 2 for Point Park in the KIAC, I think a lot of teams started to key in on Point Park, knew what to expect, and in the locker room at halftime, a lot of times were able to make adjustments. And Point Park oftentimes, especially in that middle hump of the conference season, were really able to make adjustments. But when the going gets tough, those tough teams overcome that adversity, and that's exactly what Point Park did. Yes, we touched the tournament play. First time, tough loss against Corbin. Second loss was outclassed by Indiana Wesleyan, which went on to win the tournament. Point Park wasn't the only team that got routed against Indiana Wesleyan last season, so it wasn't an exception to the rule. This year, yes, you're facing the 5th overall ranked team, the strongest 2 seed in the NAIA D2 tournament. But why not Point Park? They have the tournament experience. They're not going to be afraid of the moment. They definitely want to prove themselves that they can score more than the 31 points they scored against Indiana Wesleyan, so they'll definitely be hungry. You have Tony Grenek on the sidelines, a coach that's won 77 games in his 3rd season, which also speaks for itself. So why not Point Park? And if they get it after this, yes, it's a tough bracket, but after this, they'll have all the confidence in the world. Maybe the 3rd time is the charm, Chris.
And even that, no one says the national tournament's going to be easy, Zach. You're going to have to pull off some upsets along the way. Like they said last year, why not just get out of the way game 1? Well, it happened that they didn't get out of the way game 1 last year, but they can get it out of the way game 1 this year. If they get a Morningside out of the way, I mean, that's a big hurdle over there, or to get over, excuse me. And then, really, I mean, you could be riding confidence for a couple games then.
Absolutely, Chris. And again, for fans who want to watch, Point Park will face Morningside. Estimated time for tip-off is Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. For Kevin Taylor and for Chris Hoffman, this is Zachary Weiss signing off. We thank you so much for watching.